Let's transition. Let's go to Cleveland as the Tennessee Titans are taking on the Cleveland Browns. The Browns are favored by 3.5 points. It's a 1 o'clock kickoff in Cleveland. The over-under for this matchup is 39.5 points. Ryan Tannehill versus DeShaun Watson. Let's start off with the Tennessee Titans. Obviously, their quarterback is Ryan Tannehill. So far for the season, Ryan Tannehill has 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions, 444 passing yards, completing. He's had 30. Went 36 of 58. So his completion percentage is not great. He's completed 62% of his passes. Not bad, but not great. And so obviously for this Tennessee Titans football team, the best player offensively is Derrick Henry. So far this season, Derrick Henry has not been great. He has 40 carries, 143 rushing yards, 1 touchdown, averaging 3.6 yards per carry. He hasn't been great. So you expect, as the season goes along, for Derrick Henry to get into a rhythm and be the best player on this Titans offense. Because similar to Daniel Jones and how Daniel Jones needs Saquon Barkley, make no mistake about it, Ryan Tannehill needs Derrick Henry. Ryan Tannehill, there's no way he can be successful if Derrick Henry does not perform at a high level. Now, for me, going into the season, the biggest question for me when it comes to the Titans, because I didn't have the Titans as a playoff team, was how long is it going to be until we see Mike Vrabel bench Ryan Tannehill and bring in Malik Willis or Will Levis? Because the future of this football team is not Ryan Tannehill. It's either Malik Willis or Will Levis for this Titans football team moving forward. It's not Ryan Tannehill. But in these first 2 games, Ryan Tannehill, he did have 3 interceptions in the week 1 matchup against the Saints. But in week 2 against the Chargers, Ryan Tannehill completed like over 80% of his passes. And so he helped the Titans overcome a deficit in that game, and they were able to push that game into overtime, and the Titans ultimately won that game. But you look at their receivers, obviously they have Treylon Burks. You got DeAndre Hopkins. They brought in DeAndre Hopkins in free agency, and DeAndre Hopkins hasn't played great yet, but I expect him to get better as the season goes along. He is questionable for this matchup against the Browns, but they need DeAndre Hopkins to be in the lineup and play at a high level for this Titans offense to produce. And I feel like, obviously, the 3 players offensively that you need production from are Ryan Tannehill, Derrick Henry, and all-pro receiver DeAndre Hopkins. Treylon Burks is a solid number 2 receiver as well. They got Colton Dowell, Chris Moore as well at tight end. You got Trayvon Wesco. So this Titans offense is average. I would say it's average. But I don't have them as a playoff team. Their defense is okay. They're led by defensive coordinator Shane Bowen. They gave up 16 points to the Saints, gave up 24 points to Justin Herbert and the LA Chargers. They're average. They don't have, to me, great players defensively. They got Jeffrey Simmons up front. They got Tart, Denico Autry, Harold Landry III at linebacker, Jack Gibbons in their secondary. They still got Amani Hooker, Kevin Byard. They're decent on defense. So I feel like they can contain opposing teams' offenses, but they're not going to necessarily stop opposing teams' offenses. Now, when you look at the other side, obviously the Cleveland Browns are led by Deshaun Watson. For the season, Deshaun Watson has struggled. 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 389 passing yards. He's went 38 of 69 passing. And there have been Browns fans who are saying that Deshaun Watson is not the answer for them moving forward. Now, remember last year, in 6 games played, Deshaun Watson, he had 7 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 1,102 passing yards, completing only 58% of his passes. And so there are Cleveland Browns fans who are saying that Deshaun Watson is not good anymore. And that $230 million that's guaranteed that they gave up to get Deshaun Watson is going to be a waste of money because Deshaun Watson is no longer the player that he once was. And I disagree. I've been hearing all week people talk about how Deshaun Watson is not good anymore, and I disagree. You got to remember, this is the Deshaun Watson in Houston. Let's look at Deshaun Watson's numbers in Houston. In Houston, Deshaun Watson in 2018, 26 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, over 4,000 passing yards. 2019, 26 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. 2020, arguably his best season of his career, 33 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, over 4,800 passing yards. And remember, even at the University of Clemson, Deshaun Watson won a national championship, and he also got the Clemson Tigers to the championship game against Nick Saban a year before he won a national championship. So he got to back-to-back national championship games in college. I know people don't care for Deshaun Watson because of the situation that happened in Houston with all of those lawsuits that he dealt with, but it's undeniable how great of a player Deshaun Watson is. Now, he did struggle against the Pittsburgh Steelers in the Monday night loss. He struggled. He had only 1 touchdown pass through 1 interception, but he fumbled the ball twice, had 2 bad face mask penalties. Deshaun Watson has to play better. He has to play better. And I expect him to play better. As the season goes along, I expect Deshaun Watson to get into a rhythm. And now, the Cleveland Browns, you got to think about what they gave up to get Deshaun. They gave up 3 first-round picks, 1 third-round pick, and 1 fifth-round pick to get Deshaun Watson. They gave up a lot for Deshaun Watson. But Deshaun Watson only played in 6 games last year. He missed the entire 2021 season. So it's going to take him some time to get back up to NFL speed into real live game action. You can play in the preseason. You can look at film all week long in the film room. You got to get in there and get into real game action, and then you'll be able to see whether or not he still can play or not. I believe in Deshaun Watson. I expect Deshaun Watson to get better as the season goes along. Now, offensively, the Browns' offense is going to change. Unfortunately, Nick Chubb had a season-ending knee injury that he suffered against the Pittsburgh Steelers Monday night. And Nick Chubb, the last 4 years, the man has had over 1,000 yards rushing. So he's been the best player on this Cleveland Browns football team. He will be missed. He will be missed. But they still have Jerome Ford. They also signed Kareem Hunt earlier this week. So Kareem Hunt is familiar with this Browns offense. He's familiar with Kevin Stefanski. So Kareem Hunt will be able to step in and produce immediately in this Browns offense. But with Nick Chubb now being injured and out for the season, now Deshaun Watson has more responsibility to help this Browns offense produce at a high level. And we're going to see if he's going to be able to do it. This is why you traded everything that you traded away to get Deshaun Watson. Because now that you don't have Nick Chubb, the strength of this Browns football team is now Deshaun Watson. So this is why you gave up what you gave up to get Deshaun Watson and gave him $230 million guaranteed. Now, here's the thing. I watched the game start to finish Monday night against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And this is something no one's talking about. And Browns fans, this is something that, to me, they are overlooking. In this Browns offense, the only reliable target that Deshaun Watson has is Amari Cooper. The other receivers on this Browns offense, they're okay. Elijah Moore, he's average. Donovan Peoples-Jones, he's average. David Bell is average. So no one's talking about Who are the receivers that Deshaun Watson is throwing the football to? Besides Amari Cooper, he doesn't have elite skill position players. And I watch games and I'm saying the only receiver that he trusts is Amari Cooper. That's it. That's it. Now, at tight end, you got David Njoku. I like David Njoku a lot. They need to involve him more in this Browns offense. But I'm looking at their matchup Monday night against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and here's their stats. Amari Cooper had 7 receptions for 90 receiving yards. Njoku had 4 receptions, 48 receiving yards. Elijah Moore, 3 receptions, 36 receiving yards. Bell had 3 receptions for 27 receiving yards. But there's no true number 2 receiver in this Browns offense. This is something that Browns fans are overlooking. No one's talking about it. He needs a reliable number 2 receiver, and they don't have it right now in Cleveland, if you ask me. But obviously, on their offensive line, you got Joel Banjo up front, Jadarick Willis Jr. at left tackle. They've had some injuries on that offensive line. Jake Conklin is out for the season. Drew Forbes as well. So they're dealing with some injuries on that Browns offensive line. And that's why you saw the Steelers create 6 sacks in the matchup on Monday night. TJ Watt and Highsmith had a field day with this Browns offensive line. They got to get better up front. Everyone wants to blame Deshaun Watson. And again, he has not played well in these first 2 games. He has not played well. But the Browns offensive line, they're not great, and they haven't played great in these first 2 games. And he doesn't have a reliable number 2 receiver to throw the football to. But we'll see what happens as the season goes along. I definitely expect Deshaun Watson to play better. But I think this is going to be a close football game. I don't have the Browns covering, but I do have the Browns winning in Cleveland. I'll go Deshaun Watson 21, Ryan Tannehill 20. So I have the Browns improving to 2-1 on the season, and the Tennessee Titans falling to 1-2 on the season.